Hey guys, welcome back to the Big Intentions podcast. I'm your host, Iralyn, and today's episode is going to be all about designing a life that you love. So, if you're watching this on YouTube, please leave a comment, like this video. You can subscribe to my channel, and if you're listening, please, I would love if you could leave a 5-star rating wherever you're listening to this on Spotify or Apple. And yeah, let's just get right into it. That will help me grow the podcast. So I would love to get this podcast in other people's ears. So let's just jump into the first segment, which is living out loud. So I recently got back from a work trip to Kentucky, which is where I'm originally from. And it was so good. I felt so rejuvenated, so relaxed, but I also had a lot of social interaction with my friends and family and coworkers, so that was great. I really got a lot of, the good Kentucky experience, everything that comes with it. Everything was so green there. Like living in Texas versus Kentucky, you just don't even know how green it is there. And you also forget and just really you don't truly appreciate the beauty of outdoors and nature like Kentucky has unless you are away from it for a while. So I really enjoyed spending time with my family. I was by the pool a lot. I had lots of good food. Shout out Jolly Pirate Donuts. Those are so bomb. And really just soaking up time with those that I love. I was able to have my hometown friends to my parents' new house, which isn't in our hometown anymore. And that was great to like basically throw back to high school days. We had like just kitchen table chats, and that's just always so fun. Also, me and my family like to play the Ticket to Ride board game. That was always a good time because there's like actually enough people to play. Like here in Texas, I don't have enough people that I would invite over and know to play that. So that was fun. Um, yeah, so in terms of like content update, what I've been consuming, what kind of content that I'm recommending, whatever, just catching up with you guys. So I just finished Catching Fire, which is so exciting. I think I'm going to watch the movie tonight, and I'm really looking forward to watching the movie, um, even though I've already seen it. But it was, I just really am liking this, rereading this series. And also, when I was home, me and my friends were chatting about starting the Harry Potter series. So one of my friends she's like a die-hard Harry Potter girl, like grew up on that, and I just never read them as a kid. So thinking about embarking on that journey, which is a huge commitment. So we'll see how that goes. But basically, obviously, I would do the same thing I'm doing for Hunger Games. I would like read a book and then watch a movie. So I think that would be a good way for us to stay connected and like have something to always chat about is like, oh my gosh, this book, blah, 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 you know? So, in other terms of content updates, I watched White Men Can't Jump, which is like the new recreation with Jack Harlow. Of course, you guys know I'm obsessed with Jack Harlow. And so I was bound to love this movie, but I thought it was actually really good. Even though, I mean, it's just 2 straight hours of Jack Harlow. I don't know how that could ever go wrong. But it was so good. It was lighthearted and it was funny, and there were a lot of like good jokes in the movie too. And it was like a basketball movie. So, if you just want something, it's on Hulu. Just stream it. Who cares? Like, you don't have to go to the movies to watch it, which I totally would have paid premium price for those tickets. Like, I would have loved to have been in a Cinemark theater watching White Men Can't Jump. Like, also, if they had a premiere, that is on my vision board, is to get invited to a movie premiere that Jack Harlow is starring in the movie, Anyways, so highly recommend that. And yeah, now I'm back to routine and just starting a creativity journey. So I'm reading The Artist's Way. It's like a 12-week course. It's like a workbook almost kind of book, but basically I just started it today. So each week you kind of have a chapter to read, different tasks to go through, like workbook style things. And then also every single day you're supposed to do morning pages, and once a week do an artist date. So the morning pages is just like stream of consciousness, long handwriting, 3 pages, more like dump your thoughts on the page in the morning. And then once a week you go on like an artist day, you take 2 hours out of the week. And I guess that could just be anything. I don't know. I'm just starting and embarking on this journey. So if you guys want to join me in this journey, I would love to have you guys along, and we could chat about it and discuss the progress and the findings that we've made along the way. So I'll link that book in the show notes below. But yeah, that whole book is basically just about fully embracing the creative in yourself, connecting to your creative source energy, channeling and unblocking the artist in you, basically. Yeah. So it seems like it's a pretty popular book. I've seen a lot of people do it. It's very like in the self-help space. I think a lot of people have done it. But I kind of do morning pages anyways because I've attempted to read this book before, but I feel like I'm now really in a place to commit to a creative journey, and I feel like it would be really useful for me and like finding things I'm passionate about and really channeling that inner creative. So, yeah, that's kind of living out loud, and we can move into the next topic or the next segment rather, which is intentional living. So, checking in on last week's intention, it was to drink more water, which I was traveling and I was definitely more conscious about drinking water, but I probably didn't do as good of a job as I could have. So now that I'm like back home and back in a routine, I think I'll definitely keep that as one of my intentions for this week and be more mindful about it. But other than that, my main intention for the week is to spend about an hour a day doing the artist way task and morning pages. So definitely the morning pages. I'm not sure how long that will take each day, but basically doing that and then making sure I've done all the tasks for the week. And that's my intention for the week. And I really just want to make this a priority in my life and dedicate time to this because this kind of ties into today's episode, which is designing a life that you love, and making time for the things that you love is essential. And I feel like people always have an excuse that they don't have enough time to do something or pursue another passion, but you really have to make time for your passions. And if you don't make time for what you're interested in or what you're truly passionate about, like that's so sad. Like you should make time for those things. And I always want to make that a priority in my life. So making time for the things that are important to you. And yeah, I'll check in with you guys next week on my week 1 learnings from the Artist Way. But I think it's going to be a really exciting journey. So like I said, if you guys want to do it along with me, you totally should, and we can chat about it. And moving into the next segment, which is words to live by. And this is going to kind of just basically be the straight dive into the episode topic, the main topic of the episode. I kind of modeled this quote after today's topic. So it's one of my favorite quotes that I've ever heard, and it's very encouraging to me. It's a F. Scott Fitzgerald quote, and it goes, "For what it's worth, it's never too late, or in my case, too early, to be whoever you want to be. There's no time limit. Start whenever you want. You can change or stay the same. There are no rules to this thing. We can make the best or the worst of it. I hope you make the best of it. I hope you see things that startle you. I hope you feel things you've never felt before. I hope you meet people who have a different point of view. I hope you live a life you're proud of. And if you're not, I hope you have the courage to start over again." And really, designing a life you love is all about courage and having courage. And courage is the ability to do something that frightens one. Having courage to be yourself. It's clearly not easy, or everyone would be themselves and they would never put on a front or a mask or hide behind these things that portray them as somebody else to the world. But I feel like so often we dim our lights and tone down who we are for the sake of society or for the fear of the judgment that would come from others or the fear of failure. But really, it's truly freeing to be who you were created to be and to fully embrace who you are. And I don't want to live a life that's comfortable. I don't want to, you know, fall into a life of somebody else's dreams for me. I want to live a life that's fully mine and fully representative of who I am. I want my personality, my soul, my energy to spill out into everything that I do. And I want my life to be mine. I want to design a life that I truly love. And how do we design a life that we truly love? And I'll be sharing in today's podcast episode different ways that I've implemented things that I love into my day-to-day life, and how I've curated a life that I love, and how I am continuously refining my life and my habits and intentions to achieve and reach my full potential, to become the highest version of myself. And fully embrace where I am, but not let go of the vision of how far I want to go or who I want to become. So for me, loving my life isn't being in the perfect situation or the certain circumstance. My life wasn't set up for me. It's about fully embracing what life has thrown my way and creating routines and structures in my life that allow me to pursue those things that matter to me. And I identified what's important to me and essential for me to live a life that I love. And I try to put my time and energy towards things that fuel me and are life giving. And I intentionally spend my time and evaluate how I spend my time, who I spend my time with, and really evaluate that to ensure that that lines up with the life that I want, the life that I'm designing, the life that I love. I really want to put my energy towards things that are going to fill me back up. And really, to love your life, I feel like there are several guidelines that you can follow that will help guide you to helping you design a life that you love. So, I've kind of broken this down into some different guidelines, and I'll just share these with you. These are things that have been helpful for me, and I think they're really practical things that you can do to ensure that you're setting up your life in a way that allows you to fully embrace it, fully be yourself, and to fully love it. So let's just get right into it. One way that you can really set up your life to be one that you love is through identifying your values and goals. So you can go back to last week's episode to identify your core beliefs. So last week's episode was all about choices and beliefs. And really, to build even further upon that, you can do a values assessment to identify your core values. So one of my favorite podcasts, which is In Bloom with Abby Asselin, she has a whole episode on values assessment, and it's exactly what I did to do my own values assessment. And I'll link it in the show notes below. I think it's a really great resource to listen to this podcast. She goes through her values assessment. And I think it's great practice, and it's really helpful to identify your core values. And I believe I've shared my values before, but I went through this practice and I've identified the following top 5 values or core values in my life, and they are genuineness, independence, purpose, family, and spirituality. So I went through the values assessment and basically narrowed it down to these are my top 5. So by identifying your values, you can evaluate areas of your life and see if these are present in those areas, or it can help you to realize the need to create space for these values in your life. So, for example, I identified that spirituality is one of my core values, and I set aside time each day and each week to pursue this value. And whether that's through daily devotionals, reading my Bible, attending church, prayer, meditation, whatever that actual habit looks like in the day to day, this is a value that is crucial to me loving my life. And I've recognized that it makes me feel greatly fulfilled, steadied, and hopeful when spirituality is a part of my life. And I would say it's a guiding force in my life. And it's something that this value has to be present in order for me to fully embrace my life, fully embrace who I am, and to fully live. Like a life that I love, a life that I want to live involves this core value. So I would encourage you to go through the values assessment and to identify your core values, and then hold up those values to each area of your life and say, are my values being represented in this area? If yes, great. If no, what can you do to ensure that this value shows up in that area of your life? Or, maybe this value just becomes its own commitment or priority in your life, and you can truly just start implementing that into your dream life or the life that you love. So I think that is a really good place to start, is identifying your values. So another guideline for loving your life is creating a vision for your life. So this is when I like to use the higher self writing technique, and I've talked about this before, but in this exercise, you describe in detail what the life of your higher self looks like. But you describe it in a way as if you are already currently living this life. And this is inspired by Tori DeSimone, the Manifest podcast, and I'll link a podcast episode where she details this technique. But basically, you write down your dream life, the things that you consider that your higher self would do, your mindset, the clothes you wear, what your house smells like, all those super in-depth, like descriptive things that you can think about. You write them down and you get really specific. And the more specific, the better. And write this passage as if you're writing about the life that you're currently living as your higher self. And it's really a visionary practice that helps you to actualize your dream life. Using this writing technique or even a vision board are great practices to envisioning your highest self and a life that you love. And I found this practice to be very helpful for me to actualize my dreams. When you put pen to paper, it really makes a big difference in identifying and being specific about what you want. I think it's really an act of intentionality to write down the things that you want in your dream life. And it helps you to determine, what are priorities in your life. So going through this practice, I highly recommend just write out your dream life. It's kind of fun to do. Go outside, do it, be in nature, whatever environment that inspires you. I would say do it there and just fully embrace it. I think it's a really great practice. And I've done it several times, and it could change from time to time. Your dream life or your higher version of yourself might be different now than it was 6 months from now. So I highly encourage that practice to really envision the life that you want, envision the life that you're going to love, is to go through that practice. So the next guideline for designing a life you love, as in any design process, is the actual plan or drawing of the blueprints for your plan, for your design. And you can use the higher self writing passage to build out your goals and habits. So once you've went through that, you could go through and identify 5 to 6 priorities that are resurfacing or repeat in this higher self passage. For example, my priorities would include things like work, finance, hobbies, self-care, spirituality, and then from those priorities, I would break out those priorities and create a list of goals for each category. And then I would further refine these goals into habits that I can implement in the day-to-day. So when you break down your priorities that your higher self would prioritize and you implement them into your life, you're beginning to curate a life that you love. And that enables you to become the best version, the highest version of yourself. And setting up routines and structuring your days to represent these priorities that you've identified in your higher self. So I think this is a great practice. It's great to envision it. It's great to know the reason behind it, but you actually have to set up a plan for yourself to hold yourself accountable to actually implement these habits and that fall under the priorities. So to actually implement this design or the blueprint you've established, there are a couple things that have personally worked for me that I would recommend. So every day I write out a notes list just like on my phone, and I have a list of daily habits that I want to ensure I implement every day. And part of that list for me would include like 8,000 steps every day, reading 10 pages of nonfiction, tracking my macros, daily meditation. And I just do the checklist on the Notes app, and then throughout the day I can reference it and ensure that I'm doing that. Another thing I would recommend would be to set up time blocking, and you could say from 5 to 7, I'm doing my morning pages, daily devotions, whatever. And time blocking it like that helps you to prioritize and to ensure that you're following and staying true to the schedule and the habits that you want to implement in your day-to-day. So those are some ways to actually implement your blueprint or your plan. Another guide to designing a life you love is to not compare the life you've previously lived or the other people's lives to the one that you're currently living and striving for. So this C.S. Lewis quote really embodies this. It goes, "You can't go back and change the beginning, but you can start where you are and change the ending." Again, going back to the episode about choice and taking control of your life through the choices you make is empowering. And I think it's incredible to start over, but with change comes loss. So embracing change requires loss. Designing a life you love is not going to be easy. It requires you to lose the life you're currently living and the things in your life that aren't currently serving you. The things that are a part of your life now might not be a part of your new life, the life that you love, the life that your higher self is living. And you might have to lose some of the things that make your life more comfortable, that distract you from becoming your higher self. These are things that, have to be let go of. There has to be loss. These things need to be eradicated from your life. So, and letting go of the things that are no longer serving you or leading you to a life that you love is going to be so empowering in the end. And in order to make the change, loss is going to be required. But I think that is such a great sentiment that from pain can come beauty. And I just really encourage you all to, go through some of the guidelines that I've mentioned in today's podcast episode and really allow it to empower you and encourage you to identify your values, draw up the blueprints, envision the dream life, and then actually implement those things in your day to day. And by doing these things, it will ultimately help you to design that life that you love. Yeah, and it's never too late to change your life and design a life that you love. Intentionally designing a life that propels you into the higher version of yourself, a life that supports your dreams, a life that you are truly proud of. That's ultimately the goal. We would have way more self-confidence and have even bigger dreams for ourselves if we, set out a plan, envision a life that we want to live, and then actually commit to those things. And like I mentioned in last week's episode, I believe, about self-confidence, building self-confidence is keeping promises that you make to yourself. So building your self-confidence, start by designing a life that you love, and you might be way more willing to uphold these things that you want to do if you're designing a life that you love, if you're creating a life that's for you. And I just really hope that you guys got something from today's episode. I know it was kind of a quick one, but just really wanted to chat with you all and kind of give you some practical guidelines for how to design a life that you love. I know I'm always working on it, and I'm trying to always find and refine things that will lead me to a life that, one, I love, and two, helps me to become my higher self. So I think there's a balance there. But I would love to hear from you guys and let me know what parts of your life that you love and what you're going to be implementing in the future. So I hope this episode was helpful, and leave a 5-star rating or a comment on the YouTube video if you enjoyed today's podcast episode. And I'm excited for future episodes with you all. And you can find me on Instagram at Iralyn12 or on YouTube at Iralyn Hunt. And yeah,